Okay, let's be real. Studying for a major exam can feel like a total grind, right? But what if it felt more like a conversation? That's the pretty radical idea behind a book called From Doubt to Depth, and today we're going to break down its really unique method.
You know how most study guides are? They're basically a monologue, just a one-way street of facts they expect you to somehow absorb. But this book completely flips that on its head. It asks a pretty powerful question. What if learning could actually be an active, engaging dialogue instead?
So here's what we're going to do. We'll dive into this new way to study, explore what they call the dialogue-driven classroom, meet the mentors in the book, see how it all connects theory to practice, and then, of course, we'll get to the final verdict.
All right, first up, a new way to study. So what's the big idea here? Let's get right into the core concept.
I mean, the contrast is pretty stark, isn't it? On one side, you've got the traditional slog. You're alone, you're passively reading, just trying to memorize everything. But this other method, this dialogue-driven learning, it's about active reflection and an engaging story. It literally feels like you're in a classroom, turning learning into a shared journey.
So, a simulated classroom. That sounds interesting, but how does it actually work inside a book? Let's get into the mechanics of it.
Okay, the heart of this whole thing is something called a pedagogical narrative. Now that sounds super academic, I know, but it's actually a simple and powerful idea. Instead of just listing facts, you wrap them up in a story. You use conversation to make those really complex ideas actually stick.
And the way they pull this off is by introducing a cast of fictional characters. It's their interactions, their back and forth, that creates this dynamic that feels just like a real classroom discussion. It makes all these abstract concepts feel way more grounded and personal.
So who are these fictional mentors exactly? Well, let's meet the personas that are going to guide you through all the material.
You've basically got three key players. There's Professor Rao, who's the wise, empathetic mentor. He uses metaphors to make things click. Then you've got Mira, the curious student, always asking those really deep, thoughtful questions. And then there's Arjun, the pragmatic one. He's all about passing the exam, which, let's be honest, is a feeling we can all relate to.
And the real magic of this whole dynamic is that you, the reader, get to see your own learning process mirrored in their conversations. You see your own doubts, your own questions, and your own aha moments. It makes the entire journey feel so much more authentic.
Okay, a good conversation is great, but how does this actually get you ready for an exam? Let's take a look at how the book bridges that gap between the theory and the actual practice.
The whole process really boils down to this simple, powerful three-step loop. First, you engage in the dialogue to really get a handle on a concept. Then, you immediately test that understanding with practice questions. And finally, you reflect on the detailed explanations to lock all that knowledge in. It's a complete learning cycle.
And this isn't just a gimmick for one or two topics, no way. This entire method is applied across all 10 official units of the UGC-Net political science syllabus. So yeah, we're talking comprehensive end-to-end preparation here.
So what's the bottom line? Let's pull all of this together and take a look at a balanced assessment of this pretty unique study companion.
So what are the biggest wins? Well, first off, the format is genuinely engaging. It really pulls you in. Second, it's comprehensive and has practice questions built right in. But the real magic, I think, is how the characters make the whole process feel so personal and authentic.
But this approach is definitely not a silver bullet. At over 300 pages, it's a serious time commitment. And if you prefer those traditional, straight-to-the-point guides, the conversational style might not be your thing. Plus, if you're trying to cram last minute, this is absolutely not the tool for you.
Ultimately, this book isn't just about passing a test. It's really positioned as a companion for thinkers and learners. The goal is to give you that exam readiness, for sure, but also to provide some genuine intellectual enrichment along the way.
We've seen how this model works for one specific exam, but it really raises a much bigger question, doesn't it? Could this kind of conversational, story-driven learning be the future? I mean, is this how we're all going to master complex subjects down the road? Makes you think.